Welcome back to SANDCAST, beach volleyball with Bourne and Travis Mewhirter, presented by Marriott Vacation Club Rentals and brought to you by volleyballmag.com. We are here for part 2 of our interview with the Canadian Sams. That would be Sam Pedlow, the blocker, and Sam Schachter, the defender. I want to give you guys just a quick recap for those of you who missed or just did not follow along for the 5-star major in Fort Lauderdale. Phil Dahlhauser and Nick Lucena just ran train, didn't drop a single set. They beat Daniele Lupo and Paolo Nicolai of Italy, the silver medalists from 2016. They beat them in the finals. Samoilovs and Smedens of Latvia took the bronze, beating Pedro and George of Brazil. Our Canadian friends, Sam Pedlow and Sam Schachter, got a nice top 10 finish. They finished 9th, and they are on their way, along with most of the world's top teams, to Doha next week for a 4-star event. On the women's side, for the U.S., Summer Ross and Brooke Sweat took a bronze, while Kelly Clays and Sarah Hughes, as well as Nicole Brannig and Lauren Fendrick, also recorded top 10 finishes. So just wanted to give you guys a quick recap there and enjoy part 2 with the Sams.
Is there any value in training in California in December? Sure, but how much of an advantage is it? The last 2 years we've gone on extended training camps, and that's kind of our pseudo moving to California. As we come down here for 2.5-3 weeks, train, and hit it hard, and then hopefully we're outside playing FIVBs by that point. So, I would love to live in California, but 30 years of life is keeping me in Toronto. And I like living in Toronto. And yes, my wife has a job in Toronto, so I would have to pick her up and move her here. And something to think about as well is we're not home very often. So, I think living in California would be fantastic, but, in her career, it might not be the best move. So in that situation, it makes sense for us to live in Toronto because she has a stable job and she's very good at it. So to move, even as a physiotherapist, to move down to California or the States and start work, I would have to redo all my certifications and do the United States national exam. She would have to come down and write the bar, I'm assuming here in the States. So it's tricky. I think everyone sees it as kind of the dream to be able to do that, but personal circumstances always make it a little sticky.
And on top of that, I think that for the first month that we get back in the sand anyways, like 90% of the stuff we do is technical work, and we don't really need to be outside for that. Like the gameplay stuff, for sure, beneficial to be outside. Indoors is actually tougher because we have in our facility incredibly deep sand. When there's no wind, it's impossible to pass float serves. I don't know if you guys have ever played an indoor tournament. I know you guys are like 99% outside.
A lot of people have said that because we were just asking them about their preparation for the Hague, and they said that indoor float serves are harder to pass. And like my mind can't wrap itself around that. Why do you think that is? Like what makes it move differently?
The air pockets. It's still air, and then when you throw a knuckleball, for instance, in baseball in a windy stadium, the knuckleball will just tail and it will move, and it's predictable. It won't have that true knuckle effect. When you're indoors, there's no wind, so it actually can knuckle, it can drop, it can rise, it can shake right in front of you, and
so the wind will pull it like in one true direction.
Exactly.
Oh.
So it takes away that knuckle effect. So if you want to work on moving your feet right up into the last moment that you pass, indoors for sure is the best for that.
And, as a spin server, indoors is tough for me because it's a good opportunity for me to work on my spin serve because the toss is going to be in a consistent spot the whole time. So a serve from 5 to 5 is always going to be a serve from 5 to 5. But when you're playing another team, they're more likely to pass that ball successfully than they would be a float serve from 5 to 5. So I think you'll notice if you look at the Hague's results over the last 2 years, the team that you thought might win didn't necessarily do particularly well. I know the Brazilians, some of those teams that are outside all the time and have never played in an indoor facility, if you watch game tape, it's scrappy volleyball because it's very challenging to pass a serve because it will move meters at a time and not necessarily go the same direction and then move a little bit. It could start on your right and end up way on your left. So that's the challenge with an indoor facility.
I think the longer that we play and the more often that we have to do this indoor to outside transition, the better we get at making that transition. Like this year, was by far the easiest year. Like, I already feel pretty comfortable being outside. Yeah, we might not get like the gale force wind days that we have to learn how to play wind ball, and that will be a challenge.
Can
the
you
first
bring
couple
in big
times.
fans?
We were actually talking about that. It's funny that you say that. Our national team is sponsored by Lululemon, and we were trying to, kind of more joking around than anything, but getting one of those massive wall fans and just kind of having a true side wind day, and then get the sprinklers out and then have a rain day.
Oh, nice.
But we'll see. That's probably going to be a little outside of the budget.
Check with the building's insurance code.
The giant Lulu fan.
Yeah.
Let's turn Lulu on.
In the past couple years internationally, I feel like we've seen a lot of teams start to go away from the traditional big-little format. Like we see the Polish guys are almost, well, I know that Kantor is a little bit taller, but two relatively big guys. And then we have the Latvians with the opposite. They're both relatively small. And you guys, the defender is taller than the blocker.
Yes.
Right?
And the defender jumps way higher than the blocker.
So, I mean, how did you...
that's true.
It's funny to me that Schachter, you are the defender at 6'6", and according to Pedlow, with the higher vertical. Well, you're listed at 6'6" on BBB.
That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but we'll leave it at that.
So
It's
how
the
do you think that
intimidation
plays
factor.
to your advantage, just being able... I mean, that's a very physical team, or at least the ability to be physical, just being so much bigger on average than most teams you'll see.
Yeah, well, I mean... I don't know. I used to be a block when I was junior. I started off as a blocker, and then I actually made the transition to defender because my coach said I wasn't tall enough. I wasn't big enough to be an international level blocker, and you can see there's examples all over the place of exceptions to that rule. And I mean, Pedlow is the prime example of that. As one of the best blockers in the world,
6'5",
and at 6'5", and
True 6'5".
Me too.
I'm 6'6", but I'm a true 6'5".
But I mean, there's a whole different set of benefits that come with smaller blockers or small, like not like the 6'10" typical monster, and that's that they're disguised. They're tougher to see for the attacker. They can delay their timing, change their timing very easily, and we customize our defense to cater towards his size and my size, right? So. There's always ways around this quote unquote problem that isn't really a problem.
And I think it's interesting. You know, you have like, if you look at Robin, he's also for Austria a smaller blocker, but he's got exceptional ball control and he's a really good heads up player. So he does really well. And then Zandy, his defender, was very small, but he had a good FIVB. I won't say career because he's still playing, but he had a good run and he's still trying to do it with a different partner now. But I think they have at least 2 FIVB medals in recent memory, one in China and then Qatar. They ended up playing Rangiri and Krembala in the final and they went off. So I think there's, you know, our game definitely is migrating towards these huge blockers. And then the defenders keep getting bigger as well. But, you know, some of those teams that have stuck around are you know, equal size. Like you look at the Spanish guys, they're both around the same size and they play a style of game that works for them. You know, I can't be Ryan. I can't be Phil. That's big man volleyball. I have to kind of be a mix between, you know, a shooty guy and a physical guy. And I think we've done a good job of adapting, you know, big man components to our game and little man game or components to our game. And I think that's why we have success.
Yeah, and I don't even really think that I'm that big of a defender anymore. I mean, you look at the Dutch guys, you look at like Kame is taller than both of us.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of big defenders popping up all over the world, and even those who are shorter really aren't that much shorter, and they sky. Like, look at Bruno. Bruno probably almost touches as high as I do, and the guy is like 3 or 4 inches shorter than I am. So, I mean, the thing is yes, the game 100% is migrating towards bigger players, bigger athletes, because it's just...
Every sport is.
Yeah, your ceiling for talent becomes way higher. But, like, the thing with those types of players is it might take a little longer to develop them in the early stages until they figure out their coordination. Or, you know, when you have a 6'6", 6'7" player... They're probably not, like, their coaches on the junior level probably aren't looking at them and going, you're a defender. They're probably going to try and place them in the blocking position. So, I mean, it's going to take a while for people to start identifying these monsters and putting them on defense. But, I mean, you look at a team like even Andre and Evandro, both clearly true blockers. But they're actually so skilled that, yeah, you can throw one of those guys in the back row and they'll get the job done. Okay, they're not Nick back there, but they're good.
Well, what do you guys think about split blocking? Because there's only like one team or two teams out there that do it. Latvia, Spain, a few teams maybe dabble with it when they need it, but there's not many true split blocking teams.
Yeah, I mean, each have their, like, split blocking teams have their own benefits. Like, the one guy, if he gets hot in a certain position, you just leave him there. So if the defender's getting a ton of digs, you just, the one guy goes up to block every time the one guy defends. And there's an endurance component for sure, where it's like you're not having to run up to the net every single time if you're in super hot conditions. So
yeah, one guy might be burnt out. Like I felt like it all the time, where I'm jump serving and blocking full time, and it would have been nice to be like, "Hey, buddy,
go up.
Want to go up for me a few?" John Hyden's like, "I'm 43. You can run your ass to the net."
See, I think most defenders at that point would say, "Yeah, I'll go to the net because I'm a better blocker than you." I think every defender thinks that blocking is easy, and every blocker thinks that, defending is not really that hard.
Hey, let me take a break in the backcourt here.
Yeah, so, would Sam and I ever split block? Yeah, in practice. And then about 2 points in, we realized that I'm not going to touch anything, but he's probably going to get a couple blocks. So so every time I miss a block, I just turn around and see if he thinks he could get that one. But I think, it's an interesting concept, and I think if you can do it, it's great, but it's one of those strategies. Some teams have a monster. They're never going to put that guy in the backcourt. If you have two equal-sized guys who have good ball control and they both have dynamic hands at the net, it makes perfect sense to send one guy up sometimes and the other guy up other times. You might get a completely different look as well. So I think you just need to pick a strategy that works best for whatever style of player you are. And I think that's a beautiful part of our game is no two teams are really perfectly alike. Everyone has their own strategies, their own quirky plays, and that's what makes them successful.
Well, I mean, split blocking speaks to the adaptability of teams, right? I mean, if you can show teams a different look if things aren't working for you, that's a huge advantage. Yeah. I mean, Josh was our primary blocker, but he was a defender at the Olympics, and I blocked when I was a junior. I mean, there was times at the end of the game where we weren't getting a sniff, and he would just send me up, and we would just score a couple points just because it was a foreign look. It was an exotic play without having to do an exotic play.
And a different look for you, right? It's almost like calling a timeout. Like, let's shift our mental right here.
Switch, exactly.
I think it should be noted I never played defense.
That
being said, Schachter is blocking this year, and I am playing defense.
Tune in. Check out the Instagram.
Yeah, maybe that top 10 thing isn't happening after all.
Now, you guys have described your team as one-and-done volleyball. Because is that just for side-out efficiency, or just that, you're not one of those teams that's just going to, like, dig a bazillion balls and just kind of, like, patty cake it around and wear other teams out?
I mean, a little bit of that for sure. I think that we consider ourselves, like, a highly efficient side-out team, whereas, like, when we attack the ball, we're either going to get it or they're going to get us. But it speaks to our aggressiveness. When we go up there, we're not looking to kind of chip around and have long rallies. I mean, we can get into that and we'll be probably okay. We do our conditioning, but we're like, I'm a 6'5", 6'6" defender. If he puts me off the net, the point, we're not necessarily still losing that point. Like, I still have a chance to put that ball away. And Sam is such a big, aggressive attacker that he is so tough to get a clean stop unless he gets blocked. Like, he's not getting dug that often, and even if he is, it's not a controlled dig. So it's really tough to convert. So a lot of our side out does end up being that one and done style of volleyball.
And I think as the game's getting bigger, that is what beach volleyball is becoming. If you look at the Dutchies in 2015 when they won the World Championships, the stat I always heard thrown around was they sided out at something like 80% efficiency. If you side out at that level and you have a serve, you're going to win games. So, like, how could you describe that style, one and done. Like that you serve them the ball and they're either going to side it out or they might get aced. But you're not going to ace them very often. And if you don't ace them very often, they're going to win the game. So I think that's, that's used to describe us. If you don't serve us with pressure, we'll side out. But that's the expectation at the highest level in the world, is that if you don't put a team under pressure, you might as well just give them a free ball. And as the game continues to get taller and taller and taller, that's what we're in. You got to get your 2 points. And then you have to hold those 2 points or increase the gap, and then you're going to win the game.
I mean, you look at those big dominant players like Phil and Evandro on side out. Like when you think about those guys and their side out, you don't think multiple long rallies.
No.
You think I'm gonna get you and I'll score the point, or you're just gonna put it in the sand. So it's not extended rallies. Not our jam. I don't think we want. I don't think we want to be known as like the long rally guys.
We've talked a lot about some of the top international teams. I'm really curious to get a non-American point of view. Is who do you think right now is the best team in the world? You are welcome to say yourself.
Question.
Yeah, that's a really tricky question.
If you had to put your money on it going into every tournament, where do you put your money?
I'm going to be that guy and go with 3.
Okay.
Evandro, Andre are so hot right now that if they can continue to ride the wave, they're going to be a team that is tough to beat. That being said, a dip in the wave and their side-out efficiency goes down, they're not a super strong defending team. Or if Evandro's not serving super aggressively, again, they're not a super challenging team. We played them in the Hague, and we took them in 2 without a ton of problems because we were just able to pass the serve and slow down their attack efficiency. We played them in Gstaad again in a battle, and it was a similar situation. Unfortunately, we lost that one. But if they can keep that mental momentum going, then they're a good team. They're in the final, I think, against Alisson and Bruno today in the Brazilian Tour event. I think Nick and Phil are always going to be strong, particularly, in the important events, the big events, the 5 stars. They always seem to do well. And, they didn't do as well as I think they wanted to at the World Championships, but then they came and won the World Tour Finals. So interested to see what they do in the first tournament of the year. And then the third one, I think Liemen and Krasilnikov are one of those teams that as Liemen continues to get more reps on the beach and continues to train for more seasons, he's just going to smooth out. And then I'm going to put us in as the dark horse, as number 4. We're going to slide in there because I think leading up to last year, we didn't even have an off season together. So back to the Cuba tournament, or the tournament in Trinidad and Tobago, the Continental Finals, when we played Cuba in the final, I had to send Sam to the net because I didn't know what he was telling me to block. So I would send him to the net and get him to put the call behind his back so I could watch what he was doing, full well knowing I wasn't going to make the dig because I had no idea what he was doing at the net. But at least then I knew what I was supposed to block. We were in the honeymoon stage, so I didn't want to tell him I had no idea what was going on. But it worked out. But now that we've had a full off season of training together and a full season together, we were able to sit back and say, hey, what do we need to work on? Like, what are those key areas that we can make a 5% improvement on? Because, at this level, you're not making huge strides every offseason. You want to fix that one part of your game, that 2 parts of your game. So I think we've done that, and I'm super excited to get out there and start competing against those top level teams. So I know that we can be right there.
Yeah, Josh and I had a super complicated defense that we had to simplify when I started playing with him. We had about 12 defensive variations, three variations of each variation. It was insane.
You're listening to SANDCAST, Beach Volleyball with Tri, Bourne, and Travis Mewhirter, presented by Marriott Vacation Club Rentals and brought to you by volleyballmag.com. Volleyballmag.com is your daily digital news source for all things volleyball, from NCAA women and men to beach volleyball on all levels to international and more. Volleyballmag.com, the only media outlet that covers our sport on all fronts every day. This podcast is also brought to you by Marriott Vacation Club Rentals, which offers the best vacation accommodations in the world's best vacation destinations. Wherever you travel, Florida to Fort Lauderdale for the first major in February, or to the Outrigger Canoe Club in Hawaii. Europe to California, choose to rest in our luxurious guest rooms, suites, or villas for your next getaway. Villas offer all the comforts of home, including a full kitchen, living and dining area, and separate bedrooms. Stay with the Marriott name you know and trust. Book big spaces in great places today. Visit www.mvcrentals.com.
But back to the original question, the only team I'm going to throw in there that I think, when they're hot, are like one of the toughest teams to play against in the world is Nikolai Lupo. Mm-hmm. I think just from a physicality standpoint, if Nikolai gets hot, he's like another Phil. And then Lupo back there is just so crafty. The juxtaposition of their styles makes them so tough because they can kind of match up against anyone. Like if you want to, if they're facing a big banger, Nikolai can just go and block the guy. If they're facing a shooter, Lupo can do all sorts of tricks in the back row. And I mean, even their offensive styles are totally different. So even though they might have maybe matchup issues and teams can specialize against whatever choice they want, I mean, Nikolai's kind of an unservable guy though. Mm-hmm. He's kind of like Phil. I mean, no matter who you put beside Phil, you're probably not serving Phil. You're going to serve that guy.
Right.
So, I mean, other than that, I actually agree with everything Sam said. Evandro and Andre, if they keep the trajectory that I think they're on, they're going to be super tough because they're just such a clean side-out team, and then they've got serving weapons, plus they've got good blocker. I think their defense is obviously, like, their defender defense is a little weaker than some other World Tour teams, but they overcompensate with such a big blocker. Like, even if you have Andre in the back row, well, your blocker is like, what is it, 6'11"? Like, the guy's enormous. You can walk to that line shot. Like, you don't even need to chase. So, I think and then Phil and Nick obviously are always tough. I think the consistency, maybe issues that they had a little last year, like, are going to pan out once they kind of bear down. I mean, it's the first year of an Olympic cycle. I'll just chalk that up to that because those guys can be.
Well, and even as he's saying that, I'm thinking of teams that I've forgotten, like Cantor Loziak. Those guys have been hot. And then you think of, like,
how about the Olympic gold medalists?
What happened to Simon and Alvaro? And then what happened to Allison and Bruno? It's like, I think that's a testament to the men's game. It's like, who is going to be the number one men's team? I think you could argue 12 teams that could potentially take that. And that's what's so hard. I know, I'm choking up right now. I think that's a good thing for our sport, is that it's so deep. It just makes our job so hard, right? Because every week there's no quote unquote like good matchup anymore. Sometimes you used to sneak your way into a semifinal or a final because you got a good draw. Well, you're going to have to battle your way to the final of every men's tournament now. And it's great for our sport. But yeah, like you said, I think you could argue that a ton of teams could be in that top three situation.
I think our sport is, and I've asked plenty of top players this, including like Phil, who's been around for years now. Our sport is, on both the men and women's side, it's as good as it's ever been. The talent on the World Tour is just ridiculous right now, which is kind of why it I don't know, it kind of depresses me that the World Tour situation with this, it's in a transition. I understand that, but just the payout right now and how it's kind of gone down over the last 4 years, but the quality of volleyball and like the players are putting out a better product right now, but the tours, in my opinion, aren't paying us for that, or a reflection of that. Yeah. I don't know. That's how I feel.
You're listening to SANDCAST, Beach Volleyball with Bourne and Travis Mewhirter, presented by Marriott Vacation Club Rentals and brought to you by volleyballmag.com. Volleyballmag.com is your daily digital news source for all things volleyball, from NCAA women and men to beach volleyball on all levels to international and more. Volleyballmag.com, the only media outlet that covers our sport on all fronts every day. This podcast is also brought to you by Marriott Vacation Club Rentals, which offers the best vacation accommodations in the world's best vacation destinations. Wherever you travel, Florida to Fort Lauderdale for the first major in February, or to the Outrigger Canoe Club in Hawaii. Europe to California, choose to rest in our luxurious guest rooms, suites, or villas for your next getaway. The villas offer all the comforts of home, including a full kitchen, living and dining area, and separate bedrooms. Stay with the Marriott name you know and trust. Book big spaces in great places today. Visit www.mvcrentals.com.
I think it's, the 5-star, 4-star system down to the 1-stars and the changing the points and the changing the money and the changing the ranking and the Olympic qualification. Those are challenges. And I think they're trying to make strides in the right direction of our sport. But it's tough for us to even figure out the system and how to effectively be involved in that system. And I think that's a real challenge on a larger scale than just us as athletes. We want to go out there and we want to play the best volleyball we can and deliver the best product we can. But to be constantly having to think about how to most effectively play the system is tough. It was really easy when it was Grand Slams and Opens, because you got to peak for those Grand Slams. You might be able to take some Opens off, but now you don't really know. And now with multiple tournaments on multiple weekends, I think that fractures our sport a little bit instead of keeps it super consistent. So, the changes they're making, sometimes they're not even letting them happen long enough to see how it affects more than a year, because we all know everything takes longer than a year in the FIVB, right? Our results from last year still count for this year, but this year's different than last.
And I think the better I don't know. For example, if I'm in the NBA and I'm getting paid like these guys, I'll gladly go in at 2 a.m. into the gym and get reps like a guy like Kobe would. I mean, he's the best, but a lot of these guys, they're doing like 4 days. They got their trainers and they got balls set up and physio and everything. But in our sport, it's like, yeah, I mean, I could do that. And if I made $1 million a year, I would probably hire like 2 or 3 coaches and have these guys that the Brazilians have. But most of us can't act like these elite world-class professional athletes because we don't have the resources or the funds to do it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's like we all train for this one massive event, the Olympics, and we can't even make money on the Olympics. Yeah, exactly. It's like we're all training for this we can't even make money for. So it's like we're so reliant on just the passion to be our driver. I mean, if we're certainly not like, I didn't choose beach volleyball because of the money in the sport. There's nothing. It's so hard.
Our lifestyle is badass, though.
Yeah. But I think, as you bring the NBA, an important consideration is, imagine they went up to the Lakers and they said, hey, listen, we're going to add 25 extra games to your season and we're going to start January 4th. Right. They wouldn't have that, right? But we don't have that same level of pull. Our season now has been extended greatly. It's almost doubled, right? But we just have to do it because that's how you make the Olympics.
Yeah.
And we want to do our best getting the word out on you guys as well. So where can our American listeners find you guys on social media and reach out to you guys?
Sam times 2.
Yeah, just go on Casey Patterson's stories. Monday and Friday, we train with them. So, social media is the easiest way to find us. We actually just started a team page since we got down here, so that's in the works, called S times 2 Beach Volleyball. And you can always find my handle. It's just at Pedlow Samuel.
At Sam Schachter.
All right. We will we'll definitely link to both of those in the show notes. Now, is there anything that you guys want to talk about before we got to go? Anything that you wish we would have asked you?
Message to your Canadians.
Yeah.
Sam's new tattoo looks badass.
It does look good.
It does. You got some good ink.
We'll throw a picture up for you guys.
Yeah. Well,
ooh, multiple tattoos.
I got a couple. Yeah, I get one every off season because you can't really get them during the year because they're going to rub off in the sand and not be as clean. So if anyone's looking to get a tattoo that is an outdoors person, get it done in the winter because you're not suntanning in the winter, so your tattoo will turn out better. But yeah, I don't know if there's any Canadian youth volleyball players out there listening. I don't know if they've found the SANDCAST yet. I think it's important to continue to encourage the Canadian youth to play volleyball, whether it be beach volleyball or indoor volleyball, especially on the men's side. I think we're starting to see a decrease in the number of athletes that are playing the sport because maybe they think it's uncool. I know when I was growing up, I wasn't kind of praised for being a volleyball player. I was more made fun of for being a volleyball player. And I'm hoping that we can play a small part in changing that.
We got to get in fights, right? Like hockey. You got to start punching each other's teeth out.
Yeah, so I played fairly high-level hockey, and I quit hockey to play volleyball. And I remember leaving a hockey playoff game to go to a volleyball game and crying in the car because I felt like I was disappointing everybody because I was no longer playing hockey. But in order for our sport to continue to survive, we need people to eventually replace us. And I want you to replace me. I want to get to a point where people are starting to beat me, and I'm like, the program is going in the right direction because we have people filling in. And I think that's one of the challenges in Canadian volleyball is the longevity of, can we continue? Our program has been on the rise for the last 5 years. We need to keep that momentum going, and we need people to fill in for us when we ultimately want to retire. So if there's anyone out there listening, and if you don't think volleyball is cool, just check our Instagram because it's super cool. But yeah, don't ever be afraid to reach out. We're more accessible now as athletes than we have been at any other point in history. You can just go online and probably find 5 ways to contact one of us. So, continue to play the sport and help continue to build volleyball in Canada.
Yeah, man.
Love it.
Said it all. I can't really follow that. But not just grassroots in Toronto or Vancouver, which are the main hubs in Canada. It's we need more disbursement. We need people starting to play from all over the place. Don't be afraid to get your toes sandy. It's the sport is so unbelievable, and it's because you don't have to be the biggest and the strongest, maybe like you would in indoor. It's so much of a mental game where you have to be smart and strategy, and there's no coach, so you get that independence factor. And the girls are beautiful, guys.
Well, just speaking of the women, I think NCAA. Is it called sand volleyball?
Yeah, so they couldn't call it beach volleyball because
Not everyone
beach
has a
volleyball beach volleyball has a drinking connotation to it.
What?
So they called it sand volleyball because beach volleyball has such a party vibe reputation to it.
That's
so
what
they
makes
called
it so
sand.
awesome, bro. That's the best
But I think
part of
that
it.
the evolution of sand volleyball for women on the NCAA level has really helped our women's program, because now we're starting to see people who've graduated from going in the first year for sand volleyball. Now they're done, and now they're starting to fill in with our national team, which is awesome. It just means everything's backed up by about 4 years, but that kind of evolution has started to kind of even itself out, which is great. We don't necessarily have that with the men. Our women's program is going to be strong for a long time because of that, but we need boys to start playing more volleyball.
Yeah, I coach at home. That's what I do as my work outside of volleyball, and it's pretty much 95% girl athletes, female athletes that come and get coached by me. And as awesome as that is, and I think that's a product of the NCAA scholarships that are up for grabs and girls wanting to go and learn in the States where it's the main hubs like California and Florida and things like that. But we need more fellows out there. I think that the grassroots program in Canada definitely needs some work. I think the national team is starting to become a little more organized, which will facilitate that, but it's definitely not where it can or needs to be.
Think about it, boys. There's 95 girls to every 5 boys in the gym.
That's crazy.
And this is a
Good
topic.
odds. I like that.
This is a topic for a whole separate podcast for you guys. But how the NCAA women's system will affect, USAV, your national team. You have Kelly and Sarah coming out right now as the standout from the collegiate system, who kind of broke through immediately on the FIVB. They just kind of went straight from college to ranked in the top 12 in the world or something crazy like that. And they're doing it by all accounts. They are professional beach volleyball players, 1 or 2 seasons out. And as the collegiate system continues to evolve, I feel like they're going to start pumping out really good teams all the time. So, that's great for your development program, but I think it makes it super interesting in the lead up to not necessarily Tokyo, but 2024, 2028. We don't know who those teams could be, and there could just be a breakout team immediately that, all of a sudden they're Olympic medal contenders.
Totally. I love that as a new podcast theme. We're going to have to bring that one up.
The evolution of NCAA women's volleyball and its effect on our national team.
We'll bring some NCAA guests in.
There you go.
Yeah, for sure. It's been fun to see the college ranks break out onto the AVP because it shook a lot of things up on the AVP last year. Just these girls coming out that not a whole lot of people, if they didn't follow the college game, they didn't necessarily know who they were, and they were taking 7th and 5th, and it was where'd these girls come from? And you're seeing the development from the high school, and now more high school girls are playing beach volleyball because they have the opportunity to go to college for free in some cases. So it's been an awesome development, and it's been awesome to see you guys rise through the ranks, and we appreciate you guys coming on SANDCAST with us while you're here in your precious California time.
Yes.
We appreciate you guys having us out. It's always great to see some familiar faces and talk shop and get out here and play some volleyball.
Yeah,
These
for sure.
snacks in front of me are delicious.
Yeah, I've been
want some Triscuit
I've been
crackers.
dying not to eat, but we're about over,
The
right?
next evolution of the podcast is you guys snack sponsor.
Hey, what does that
quiet
sound like
snack
on the mic? How's our producer guy Brad is loving the sound of that?
Yep. We appreciate you guys listening as
See you later.
always. And we will catch you guys next week on SANDCAST.